It is now 6:02. I'm going to call into session our October 24th, 2023 Board of Directors meeting. And I'm going to call roll to establish a quorum. Nicole Booker.
Here.
Jason Guype.
Here.
Jane Jackson.
Here.
Jeremy Pierce.
Here.
Lindsay Spain.
Here.
Benji Woodard. Paul Worley. And I am present, so we have established a quorum. I now call this meeting to order. And we will begin by reading our ethics statement. Conflict of interest reminder per NCGS 138A-15E, board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. Hearing none, if during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair of the meeting. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on that matter and from voting on that matter. We will start with the approval of our August and September 2023 meeting minutes. I will entertain a motion.
So moved. Sorry.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, I will go ahead and call for a vote. Nicole Booker.
Aye.
Jason Guype.
Aye.
Jane Jackson.
Aye.
Jeremy Pierce.
Aye.
Lindsay Spain.
Aye.
Benji is not here. Paul is not here, and I will vote aye as well. Motion carries. It is my understanding we do not have any public comment this evening. Do we have any guest discourse? Do not believe so. Correspondence from our authorizer.
Yes, we do. I have mentioned it in the past few board meetings, but I'm very excited to share that on October 6th, we received the official letter from the Office of Charter Schools that we are being recommended to the Charter School Review Board for a 10-year charter renewal. And that is tremendous news for us. The last time Neuse went through this, it was a 7-year renewal. They had to go in front of the review board. Well, at that time, it was the, I don't even remember now what it used to be called because we've been calling it the CSRB for the last 2 months. But they had to do a big presentation there, and a 10-year renewal just sails us right on through that process. We don't have to go in front of them and plead our case. And so that vote will happen December the 6th and 7th. We'll be on that agenda for one of those 2 days. They'll then, we do not expect, the Office of Charter Schools and Director Beccaro do not expect there to be any issues with getting through the Charter School Review Board. It will go to the State Board of Education. We expect then sometime in the spring, March, maybe early April, for the final vote and the final seal of approval from all the educational entities in the state, and that 10-year renewal will be ours, and we don't have to worry about this for 10 more years. So I'm very thankful for that news.
That's wonderful news.
Yeah. And that official letter is in the shared drive if you all would like to see it.
Okay. Is any questions for Dr. Blackwell? Okay, we will move on to our superintendent report.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. I have 3 things on my report tonight. One is obviously I want to talk about our school performance score. We'll do a deep dive into all of the data It is 45 slides long of a presentation, so I ask that you settle in because it's going to be a little while. The second thing is the North Carolina High School Athletic Association did update their athletic eligibility policy, and I will be sharing that with you all as well for your approval. And then finally, I get to share with you, I think, aside from really great test scores, is the lower academy building plans, and you get to see them finally. So I'm very excited to share all of these things with you tonight, but I will go ahead and jump right in with the first one. Can somebody just let me know you can see this? Everybody see it?
Yep, we can see it. Thank you.
Awesome. I tried to make it as big as possible because my eyes aren't what they used to be. And I know reading it on a screen can be a little difficult. So it is also in the shared drive as well. I'm going to move as quickly through this as I can. You will notice for returning board members, this is the same format I have used in reporting this data for the last 3 years. And new board members, if you have questions, just let me know. I can't see any of you on my screen right now. I can just see the slideshow. So if you have questions, just jump in and let me know, or if you'd rather hold them till the end, that might be better too. So I just want to make sure I'm going to hit the next button. You all can see this, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So
Dr. Blackwell, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is saved in the drive, correct?
it
This
is.
slideshow. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
It is. Yeah. It's linked in the superintendent report document. So this is going to show you where we've been since 2013. So the past 10 years of data minus the year of COVID where there was no data, where we are now and where we will be in terms of the progress towards the board stated outcome goals and our own campus initiatives. So very excited to show this one to you because we are sitting right now at the very bottom of your screen at a 67, which is a C. We need a 70 to be a B. We're getting closer. We're only 2 points away from our pre-COVID performance, but I want you to look at that academic growth history. Neuse has not seen that high of a number since 2015, 2016. We were at 77.4% for academic growth, which just edged out the 17-18 school year at 77.3. But I am very pleased to see not only the growth in terms of that 62 to a 67, but also the amazing growth that is noted when we went from a 60 not met to a 77.4, which was meeting the goals, the academic growth goal that the state had set for us. So where we are, this is going to show you EOGs and EOCs proficiency, and I break it down as much as I can to make it as easy to understand as possible. And then I'm also going to talk to you about our beginning of the year MAP scores for this year. Before I jump in, I've never noted this before, but I feel like it's important now because there are school systems that will use other schools' data for comparison points. And I was made aware a couple of weeks ago that there were a couple of school systems that were using our scores to compare to their scores. And that is all well and good, but I just need to make it very clear that our school performance score, which is a 67, is not based on just EOGs or EOCs. It is based on all of these things. So we don't have the luxury, quite frankly, of being an elementary school only, where the only thing we're working towards is 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade reading, math, and 5th grade science scores. We're working towards 3rd through 8th grade reading, math, science. We are working towards Math 1, Math 3, and English 2 EOC proficiency in high school. We're working towards an EOG growth score for Math 1 in 8th grade. Our graduation rate, our ACT scores, our work key scores, our rigor, our high level of math courses, and then our English language learner progress in 3rd through 8th and 9th through 12th grades. So I think it's important to note that any school or any system that uses the SPS proficiency growth data from any K-12 charter school should only do so when comparing other K-12 schools. Otherwise, it is invalid and it is irrelevant. So I'm just making that statement because I will not make those comparisons tonight outside of the K-12 charter school space. So it's important to note anything I pull up that shows proficiency or growth data is a complete number. So it's 3 through 8 reading or 9-11 math 1, math 3 biology. Graduation rates will also be included, but I just want to make sure not only that we all are cognizant of that information, but that people who are watching or will watch who don't know will now know that this is so much more for our K-12 school than just EOGs and or EOCs. Okay, so this breaks it down for you to let you see kind of how we shook out in all of these areas. So our total school achievement was a 64.8. Our total school growth was a 77.4. Those numbers are combined. The school achievement score is weighted 80%. The school growth is weighted 20%. That's how we get a 67. So you can look and see the report card scale. As I mentioned, we need a 70 to be a B, and we are 3 points away. Our reading achievement was a 64. Our reading growth was a 76.8. Our math achievement was a 53. Our math growth was almost 80%. If you round up, let's do it. But they'll tell you that we were at a 79.5. The link for that information is also on that slide, and you are welcome to take a look at that as you have time. It is quite meaty, and there's a lot of really good information, but I'm trying to be as succinct but as direct as possible. So when we move into EVOS data, that is essentially the data that the state provides to us that allows us to see what they think we should be able to accomplish based on every single child in our school that has any historical testing data. We have students who come to us from homeschool. We have students who come to us from private schools, and we have students who come to us from out-of-state schools. So we do have students that don't have any data, but the majority of our students do. And so if you don't hear me say anything else tonight, hear me say this. Every year, that number changes, and it is not an apples to apples comparison. And you'll see it later. I'll bring it back up, and it'll be very clear. But when you look at a number and you say in 21-22, we were at 60% proficiency in 3rd grade math. And in 22-23, we were at 40% proficiency in 3rd grade math. But we exceeded growth. That's because that particular group of students were expected to perform at a certain level. And they did. Actually, they exceeded it. So when you see a 60 drop to a 40, it can be difficult to say, wait a minute, what happened? But the understanding is that that mark changes every year based on the student population that we have at our school. And that is state data that they give to us. So here is EVOS data key. Here's what you want to know. Blue is exceeded growth. Dark green is meet, but almost exceed. The middle of the ground green is just met. The lighter green is, you met it, but you were really close to not. And red is does not meet expected growth. We want to see all blues and greens. And we are very thankful that this entire screen shows us that except for one area. That one area I'm going to come back to when I talk a little bit more about these numbers. But I just want you to note that we met or exceeded in every area except for 4th grade reading. That little white circle on all of those spectrums gives you a better idea of where we landed. We did have 3 areas that we were in the met, but we were close to not meeting growth. But then you can also see where we had 2 areas of dark green where they almost exceeded growth. And that's really exciting to see, to know that the proficiency is continuing to increase. But without that growth, without meeting or exceeding that growth, the proficiency doesn't come. It's the growth that has to take place in order to get the students to a level of proficiency. This is our 5th and 8th grade science. And then the bottom part is our EOC data. It's important to note that while we are required to administer a biology EOC, it is not counted in our school performance score. So it did not meet expected growth, but see how close it was. Some would argue we were half in and half out. But regardless, that biology score, it's very important to us. But according to the state, it is not considered a factor in the 11 indicators by which we are rated. This might be my favorite slide of the whole thing. It's very simple, but what it shows you is the breakdown of growth for our student groups. We met or exceeded growth for all of our student groups. Our Black population, our Hispanic population, our 2 or more races population, our white, our economically disadvantaged students, our English language learners, our students with disabilities, and then we met reading, math, and AIG as well. Again, there is a link there if you would like to take a look at it. It is a very, very dense data, but will give you a better idea of what that looks like if you want to see it in terms of what these look like. So moving on, GLP is grade level proficiency. Grade
Dr.
level.
Blackwell?
Yes.
Before you move on, may I ask a question about EVOS scores?
Yes.
Okay, and I know you probably answered this before, but just to make sure. So when I'm looking at, for instance, 4th grade growth, so we're talking about a grade level as a whole, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And their growth as compared for the whole year, as compared to them as 3rd graders, or are you talking about fourth grade last year? Does that make sense?
It is talking about them being compared to them as 3rd graders.
Okay.
It's a great question. It takes their 3rd grade performance, and then it projects what they think they should be able to do in 4th grade.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
And then so on as they continue to age up into the grade levels. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so grade level comparison. So I have broken it apart into 3rd through 8th grade EOGs, both math and reading. The 9 through 12 EOCs, both math 1, 3, biology, and English 2. And then it gives us a total. Now these numbers came again from that DPI dashboard. All that information you can actually just find on your own, but I've linked it in here as well. Our EOGs, we were at a grade level proficiency of 62. That also includes science. I apologize, I don't think I mentioned that. For comparison, Johnston County as a whole, we're at a 57% proficiency, and the GLP for 3 through 8 EOGs in North Carolina was a 53. So we're blue, Johnston County is red, the state of North Carolina is yellow. Ultimately, the goal is that there's more blue than the other 2 colors, and in this case, there are. In our EOC, the EOC scores, we were at a 60% proficiency. Johnston County was a 50% proficiency, and North Carolina was a 52% proficiency. So you can see that our total GLP for Neuse Charter School is 62%, which is far and above the other 2 data points here, which is Johnston County and North Carolina. Just for reference, I think it's important to note too how, what's the top mark in the state. And this year it was again Chapel Hill and Carrboro City Schools. They had a total of 71 GLP, grade level proficiency. So this one shows you just Neuse comparisons over the last 3 years. And you can see How the numbers trend. Again, blue is the 22-23 school year. We'd like to see everything in blue be higher, but we also recognize that the shifting student population and the EVOS data combined lets us know that that's not always going to be the case, but we're very, very fortunate that it is this year. In 21-22, that middle column, you can see how we performed. And then this past school year, you can see that we improved in all of those areas and or stayed the same. So you can see those numbers as well. I'm not going to read those to you, but just the goal is that blue is higher. And really the only space where that was a comparison in 2021 with Math 3 and with English 2. So now we like to look at other K-12 charter schools and how are they doing? How are we doing compared to them? And so I pulled the first, second, and third, which are the top 3 K-12 charters in the state. I just put the locations of those schools because some people may not be familiar with them or know where they are located. But on average, these tend to be in the top 3 or 4 pretty consistently. And so you can see how we rank compared to Pine Lake Prep, Lake Norman, and the North Carolina Leadership Charter. And we have work to do in terms of catching up with and ultimately being able to exceed and land our spot in one of those columns. But you can see that Pine Lake Prep has an 87% proficiency in their reading EOGs and 89% in math. Their science 5 and 8 exceeds 95%. If it is higher than 95%, the state doesn't tell us. They just give us that little inequality mark. So it's probably closer to 100. Their math is a 74. Their math 3 is a 94. Biology is an 85. English 2 is a 90. And you can read and look at the rest of those comparisons as well. But that's just, it's helpful data, I think, for us all to know and realize what we're up against. But that it's definitely something that can be achieved. We just, we've got work to do, as always, right? This gives you a graph of the information I just showed you. I am a color number graph person. I like to see things visually in this way. So if you're like that too, you can take a look at these. Neuse is blue. Pine Lake, the #1 K-12 charter in the state, is red. Lake Norman charter is yellow, orange, gold. And then the North Carolina Leadership Charter is green. So you can see what that looks like in a different way. And then we look at all of the North Carolina K-12 charter schools. There are 59 currently in operation in North Carolina, and Neuse Charter with a 67 school performance score comes in at number 32. Of all of the North Carolina K-12 charter schools, 4 are rated as an A, 24 are rated as a B, 19 are rated as a C, 8 are rated as a D, 4 are rated as an F. So those that have achieved a GLP of 75 or above, that's 22 out of 59. I give you the EVOS colors slide key for the next slide, just so you know that teal means they exceeded growth, green, they met it, red, they did not. I think it's important to note when you're looking at these schools and these scores, they can have really, really great scores, but they didn't meet their growth. And we saw that a lot last year. A lot of the top K-12 charters did not meet growth, even though they had really high proficiency. It's not necessarily the case this year. So you can take a look and see that in that first column, actually both of these, what I did was I pulled the top, all the A's, the B's, and the C's. There were 41 total. And you can see that Neuse lands in the middle of the second column, right at 32 with a 67. And that there was a few schools they did really well, but they did not meet growth. Woods Charter tends to perform really well, and they did with a 79, which is a B, but they did not make growth. You can see some of the others as well on this slide that shows you how other schools performed, their score total, and then whether they met growth or not. And I think this is some really great data too that I wanted to share that I've never pulled out before to share with you, but I will be doing that moving forward. Again, there were 41 K-12 A, B, and C rated schools, and 11 of those had a school performance score that dropped from the 21-22 to 22-23. 4 of them did not change. They just stayed right where they were. 1 didn't have a score last year because this was its first year in operation. There were 4 schools out of 41 that increased their school performance score by more than 4 points. And out of 41, only 4 achieved a letter grade change. So 2 went from a B to an A, and then 2 went from a C to a B. But I think it's important to note we went from a 62 to a 67, which is an increase of 5 points. And out of these 41 A, B, or C K-12 charters, only 4 schools increased their score more than we did. And I think that is a great data point to continue to stress how significant it is as a K-12 school to improve a number, because we have so many indicators that, moving just a tiny bit is incrementally is more in line than massive jumps of numbers. So I was really pleased to see that we were able to achieve that, and only 4 other schools that are rated a B, or C in the K-12 charter world did that. And just for reference, because I think it's helpful to continue the charter conversation about performances, is there are 211 total charter schools in North Carolina. 44 of them are considered for profit because they partner with an EMO that manages and runs their school. But of the 211, there are 12 A-rated schools. And we know that 4 of those are K-12 charters. There are 44 B-rated schools, 79 C-rated schools, 47 D-rated schools, 18 that are rated an F. There are 4 alternative schools, and then there are 3 for which there was not sufficient data to provide a ranking for them. Okay, so now we talk about grade level proficiency in math. What you'll see across the top are the scores per grade level in math. And then I have coded them for you so you can see, did we exceed, which we did in 6th grade? Did we meet growth, which we did in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th? Or did we not meet, which we met everything in here? But I want you to note the green, and then I want you to note the year before. So in 2021, because this is the apples to oranges conversation, in 21-22 in 3rd grade, there was a 51% proficiency in math. But this past year in 3rd grade, it was 46. One would think if it's an apples to apples comparison, that would have been coded red, but it's not. It's coded green because that was the projection. Same with 4th grade, which 4th grade in math just exploded. We went from 40 to 56 if you're trying to make that comparison. But even still, that 56 didn't exceed growth. It met it. 5th grade was a 51. In 6th grade, that number dropped to a 50. And yet they exceeded growth because that group not only met the expectation the state had set for them, but they went beyond it. Even though it looks to anyone who's just looking at this number like it dropped by 6 points, you can't look at it like that. Also 7th grade, it was a 65 and now it's a 56, but they met that growth measure. So now we look at reading, and I've coded it for you again so you can see those numbers. Third grade was 57. They met growth, even though the year before it was 70. Fourth grade was a 65. The year before it was a 57. So they grew substantially in terms of that number, but they didn't meet growth because they were expected to perform way higher. And most people would go, oh my gosh, what in the world? But that's just how it works. Those kids came in and they had a set of data that has followed them and has expected them to perform at a certain level, and they just didn't hit that mark last year in fourth grade reading. But everything else did, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade for the reading.
Melissa, this is Jane. Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
And again, I don't think what I'm getting ready to ask is apples to apples, but would it be closer to apples, like Granny Smith to, I don't know, Red Delicious? If we looked at like for the fourth grade number that's red, if we look at third grade proficiency last year,
Mm-hmm.
now it's not the same kids necessarily, but it's probably a bunch of those kids are probably the same kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is that is that perhaps the third grade last year got 70, fourth grade this year got 65. So is that a better indicator of why it's red than the fact that fourth grade last year got 57? Because this year they're in fifth grade.
Mm-hmm. And I'll show you that. I've got a year over year slide in
Sorry.
here. Yeah, for you, that will help it make sense. You're absolutely right, though.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you're absolutely right. But if I didn't have the second and third rows on here, and I just showed, 57, 65, 67, 60, like if I just showed last year's numbers, and someone saw that 65 was red, it'd be like, oh my gosh, they scored just as high, if not higher than, 3 other grade levels. So what happened there? But yeah, that's, and I'll show it to you when we get to it, which is
Thank you. This makes sense. It's really helpful. I was just trying to understand it in a different way. Thanks.
Yeah, actually, it's right here. So now you can see the year over year data, just considering too that we do have students who come and go and those numbers do fluctuate, but they don't fluctuate as significantly as it might be for other schools. But you can look and see, just follow the colors if that helps. So reading, the yellow numbers, they go together. The third graders performed at 63. They dropped to 57. They came back up to 67. The fourth grade reading started at 63. They dropped to 49. They came up to 55. So if you track it that way, you can see it a little bit differently. And then the third grade reading and math is white because there's nothing else to compare that to for this year. But next year, there'll be a whole nother column. And we'll be able to see how they perform over time. But this is a good way to look at it. Jane, was this kind of more what you were thinking?
This is perfect. Thank you so much. That really helps understand, for me at least, to understand the data a little better.
Yeah. So I mean, even looking at the sixth grade reading, they started at a 60 in 2021. They went to a 72, and then they continued to climb to a 78. So that's a really cool one to look at too, because you all have asked us to be at 75%, and that group has the freshman group that we have now. That's the students that we're talking about with that group.
And this is not growth. This is just raw EOG score, correct?
This is this is grade level proficiency.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. For the reading and then for math. Yeah. Okay, then this is the last set of EOGs, is the science. And again, this is a Neuse comparison over the last 3 years. We met growth in both fifth grade and in eighth grade. And, really pleased to see the consistency in that eighth grade score, and then to see that increase in the fifth grade proficiency. It's really hard to do any kind of apples to apples with that because they don't test every year. But it is nice to see that upward trend and then that consistency. To achieve a 90% proficiency is pretty is certainly commendable. So we were really excited to see those numbers, and the kids were, and obviously the staff were as well. So we'll move into EOCs now, and I will show you the scores for, this is Math 1. This is the Math 1 performance, and you can see that we were at 34, we came up to 40, and we have stayed at 40. But even with that number staying the same, we met growth. So that tells you that we have typically, it's been a historical pattern for Neuse to have more new students coming into 9th grade than any other grade level. That has since stopped. Excuse me. Not stopped. I shouldn't say stopped. It has definitely improved. The number of students who are leaving us at the end of 8th grade has decreased significantly over the last 2 years. But you can still see there must be some kind of shifting and changing in there for us to still get a 40 and meet growth. Math 3, we were at a 63% proficiency. The year before we were at 74%. But still we met growth with that 63. And then with biology, we were at a 43, we grew to a 54 and added more with a 58, but that did not make growth. But again, this number is not included in that SPS score of a 67. And then English 2, we were at an 80. We moved to a 74, and then we increased to a 75. And though that was just a 1-point increase, we did meet growth in that area as well. And then the graduation rate, we were at 100 for the past 2 years, excuse me, and we dropped to a 92. So the state of North Carolina percentage is an 87. And I would like to just note here that anyone looking at this might go, oh my goodness, what in the world happened? But when you have a small senior class, such as we did, and one student or two students aren't able to meet that expectation of graduation, it really can create a drop in a percentage like we saw last year. And we are working very hard to ensure all of our students graduate, and hopefully that number will come back up at the end of this school year. But I just wanted to note that's why that number jumped the way that it did, because we have a small senior class. Even just one student is going to make a tremendous difference in that number.
So how many students was that?
It was 2.
Okay, thanks.
One did complete the requirements over the summer.
Thanks.
One did not. Next, we're going to move into how we're doing this year with our beginning of the year MAP scores, and I will show you the breakdown for how we performed versus the national norm. Again, this is MAP data that we have had in place that has been tremendously helpful and instrumental, I believe, in equipping our teachers with as much information as possible about their students so that they can help them grow and achieve and get closer to proficiency and or exceed proficiency, as the case may be. So everything is green because at the beginning of this year, our students scored higher than the national norm in all grade levels for beginning of the year reading. You can take a look at that and see some of it was really close. And then some of them you can almost looks like a tie. For example, 3rd grade, 186.4 versus a 186.6. We gave that to them. They earned it. But that's a really nice piece of data to have and to see that we are continuing to track in the right direction. And the beginning of the year information is also showing that to us. And then this is our math map data for 1st through 8th grade, again, you can see that we are tracking above the national norm in all areas. So where will we be? This is going to show you the progress we have made towards the outcome goals the board has set for us, and what are we doing to continue to improve, and then a few pieces of connection to our strategic plan, and then we are almost done. So the content that you see in gray are the board approved outcome goals for Neuse Charter, and the bold information is the response to it. So the hope was that by the 21-22 school year, we'd be in the top 25%. We are still not there. We needed to be ranked within the top 15 this year. We were 32nd, which is the top 54%. To be in the top 25, we would have needed a 76 GLP. We were challenged with ranking in the top 10% of K-12 charter schools in the state by the end of the 23-24 school year. And right now we have not met that goal. In order, if this goal were in place for the end of last year, we would have needed an 84%, and the highest in the state was an 88.2. So just some perspective there on what it would have taken this past year to get there. And then we will score as a B-rated school on our state report card. And we did not make that goal. Still didn't make that goal. We are at a C. We started at a 59, and we have grown to a 67 in the last 3 school years. And I have no doubt that this time next year, we will be celebrating us being in the 70s with our B. Our performance towards the absolute goal was a minimum of 75% of our students will be grade level proficient. It just means we would have a 75% GLP. And we were at a 62, which is 13 points below that goal. I want you all to just look and see, though, how we've tracked the last few years. We started at a 57, we moved to a 60, and then we moved to a 62. And like I said when I started, all of these indicators of all the EOGs, all the EOCs, it can be a bit of a challenge sometimes for K-12 schools to be able to pull those numbers in the right direction with all of those factors at play. But we are still moving in the right direction. Just again for reference, because I think it's important to know, MAP projections and EVOS projections, I have them listed for the last 2 years, but I'm just going to talk about the one for this year. They're still predicting us at 60% proficient for our EOGs and 60% proficient for EVOS. So MAP and EVOS, again, are predicting the same thing that it predicted last year based on testing and based on MAP projections. So I find to be fascinating how that happened the way that it did, but we are absolutely determined to not have those be the numbers that we land at. Progress towards our school growth goal. We were to meet or exceed our growth goal, and we did meet our goal. I just wanted to show this all to you in a different way, because I think it is just tremendous that we had almost a 14-point increase in our reading growth and almost a 17-point increase in our math growth. Now that's just for elementary and middle school, but it is still important to note that our teachers were working so hard, and our students and all of our support staff, to look and see those numbers is just really, really rewarding, specifically for them. And then again, the mission specific goals, we do have a goal that by the time our students are graduates, that they will demonstrate consistently the traits that we have described in the portrait of a Neuse charter school student. And there's 6 of those, which are communicator, collaborator, critical and creative thinker, goal-driven and resilient, ethical and global citizen, and then adaptable and flexible. So what I have here is just copious amounts of great things that have happened on our campus that have aided in our efforts to ensure our students can demonstrate mastery of these by the time that they graduate. And I'm not going to click through all of these because there's 24 of them, but I just think that it's important to note that we are intentional about making sure that this portrait of a Neuse charter school student, portrait of a cougar, is embedded into our conversations, our traditions, our celebrations, our daily activities. And I also think it's important to note that North Carolina recently released its own portrait of a graduate, and all 6 of our items that we have listed as important character traits are also found on the North Carolina portrait of a graduate. So I think we were a year ahead of that, but we're definitely tracking in the right direction on that one too. So what are we doing about it? What are we doing to continue to get where you all want us to be? And a lot of things this year are going to stay consistent and continued with what we put into place last year. We know is effective, and we're going to continue to do that with high levels of support, implementation of all of these wonderful things, such as the 6-period school day for our middle and our high school students and teachers. We're continuing to focus on social emotional learning. We're also picking up a lot of pieces for college readiness. And we've implemented an opportunity zone time for our K-5 students that allows them a designated space in their day for enrichment and intervention for every single child. We continue our partnership, with JCC. We continue our implementation of our AIG program. We're continuing to offer in-house professional development that is relative to Neuse charter school needs. And we are continuing to be intentional and strategic about any changes that we make, because we are now really focused on organizational stability. Just as a reminder, these are our strategic plan focused critical objectives that we will ignite student performance, eliminate needless gaps in student achievement. I feel like that growth measure is a clear indicator that we are working very hard towards that. We will reflect the cultural attributes that are common to high-performing K-12 charter schools. We continue to look at what those schools are doing and do our best to make those relevant to and make them our own here. And then we will embody the values that are defined in the portraits: the ethical global citizen, adaptable, resilient, communicator, collaborator, all of those things. We are not relenting on that. So just a couple of touch points here that are related to the strategic plan. Before I start, just a side note, that strategic plan is set to expire at the end of the school year. We will begin the revision process for that in January. So just know that we are working towards that when the new year comes. But we are continuing to make sure that our staff have what they need and that they are supported, and that we are able to provide them with specific training or coaching to help them be as successful as they can be. And these are just some of the things that we have done so far and some of the things that we did last year. One of the things that I think is such a highlight is the Canvas course that was put together. Dr. Swartzlander took the lead on that, and we call it the Every Child Every Day course. And it is everything you want to know about Neuse Charter School and how we think success is brought about for students. And it is it's a really great, I think, roadmap for our staff. Also, continuing to work towards that collective efficacy with our teachers and understanding that this is everybody's responsibility, and also ensuring that our students recognize that they have a heavy hand in this as well. So you can see a lot of things that we put into place last year, including specific PLCs for teaming on kids, We were able to get 3 Title I coaches who came in and were tremendous assets last year. They've already begun their work this year. Our AIG program again. And then more focused on what's happening in classrooms, being in classrooms, conducting observations, providing feedback, coaching with our staff. And this is just some data for you to see where we are right now at the start of this year. The admin team does get together quarterly to collaborate on their scores. And make sure that there is a consistency in feedback across the campus. And then continuing to work towards increasing community engagement, really wanting more partnership with families. And a lot of the ways that we're doing that continue to be these parent-teacher conferences that we really feel are critical. It's a critical time to have conversations with parents about their children, and for parents to have conversations with teachers as well about how their children are feeling. So continuing with the beginning of the year survey, the semester, the end of the year parent survey, we're going to continue with the teacher engagement survey. I am sending quarterly messages out. Our academy directors are continuing to send weekly messages. And then we also send a weekly K-12 newsletter for internal communication with our staff. Just again, trying to increase the engagement level of all of our stakeholders. So those numbers are just there for you to see. October 12th and 13th were teacher work days. Those days were designated specifically for parent-teacher conferences. And those are the total numbers that we were able to get from our teachers once those were finished. And there is slide 45. Questions, thoughts? I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can see you all. Uh-oh. Okay, are you there? Yeah. Brad Williams raised a hand.
Just a little sorbet for this thing. We are up 2 sets. We won the first 2.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Going into the third.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you.
Sorry to derail, but I thought we could use that.
Brad, you could have made it a little more dramatic. Like, we bring this interruption to you, you know.
I'll do that next
time.
time. Maybe I'll put in some live feed of the game.
There you go. Yeah, do that.
Dr. Blackwell, thank you for that very in-depth presentation. And I guess my question is, and I guess, everybody thinks, okay, so here we are, you've talked about what we're doing to continue to grow and to continue to improve. What are you hearing from your teachers and your administrative staff out of all those specific strategies, whether it's, the Title I tutors or those, what things are really kind of moving us forward? And I know there's probably just not one, but, have you been able to identify really what is pushing us forward and how to, kind of put more resources towards those things?
Well, I think first of all, when I got here, there was no established curriculum. There was no consistent curriculum in the elementary school. Everyone kind of, taught the standard course of study in a multitude of ways. And so putting in a curriculum immediately created a framework. And I think every year that since we've put it into place, people have become more and more comfortable with it, more and more adept at using it. And I think that's been number one. That's been a 3-year process. But still, in addition to that, the map data has been tremendously helpful. If you have been at Neuse and you've had any of those map data reports at home, they are extensive. The information that we can get from those can literally allow me to say, I've got 6 kids who do not understand quadratic equations, and I've got 24 that do. So in my CA time for the next week, I've got 6 kids I've got to go work with quadratic equations on, and I've got 24 that I need to accelerate. I need to make them more difficult. We talk about differentiation in education across the country and for decades, but the map data really gives us a very black and white space in which to function to differentiate. So I think the established curriculum, especially for K-5, has been tremendously helpful. The MAP data, and then also just I think the Title I tutors have been tremendous. They have to be licensed educators. And so we've been really fortunate to get some Title I teachers who are retired and have a wealth of experience and knowledge and wisdom. And so not only are they able to come in and work with our students, they're also able to come in and work with our teachers. Like not, it's like an unintended benefit of having them here and being able to share that with our staff. But I also think our staff is stabilizing. They are, I think, more comfortable than they have been. And I think that's across the board. I think if you've been on campus, I think some of you have been, and it feels better and better every day. It's not perfect, and not every day is a good day, but it does feel like things are gelling now more than they ever have. And last year was tough. Last year was really hard. I did not actually project the scores the way that they came out, if I'm being quite direct. I was absolutely overjoyed with how everything landed. But you all know last year we had tremendous turnover, and we had trouble with staffing. And we went through the whole year and we didn't have a full staff. I was covering classes, I was teaching, all of our admin were doing that. But I think in that space of a year, I think we all proved ourselves to each other and kind of recognize we really truly are in this together. We really are only stronger if we work together. And so to answer your question, curriculum, MAP, Title I, but then I think also just recognizing we had to show up every day for our kids because they were going to be here, and we did.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I know that was a lot of information.
I'm so sorry.
No, it was great information. And we've known for a long time it was coming, and we were excited about it. So.
All right. Well, I got more things.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. So the High School Athletic Association released about 2 weeks ago. I think this is it. Yeah, this is it. A revision to the eligibility statement for athletes. And so what I've done is I've noted it here. Can you all see that? I don't even know if I can zoom in. Yeah, okay. So it's on the top of page 9, but essentially there has been some components to the high school eligibility that I know some of you have not loved, and I know our students have not loved, but one of the requirements was that they had to have a minimum course load of 5 courses to be eligible. They are not recommending, they have approved that effective October 30th, that no longer be included. So they are removing the minimum course load, and they are instead saying to be eligible to participate, a student must be in good academic standing. For the purpose of this rule, a student shall be deemed to be in good academic standing under the following circumstances. 1, they are passing with at least a 70%. They are passing at least 70% of the courses they are taking in the preceding semester in order to be eligible for the next semester. So if it's the spring semester, and they don't play again until the fall, that's where you look at that preceding semester. And then also they're on track to advance to the next grade or to graduate. They have removed the 5 course load. And so they are saying that this will take place on, next week. the 30th. And I am sharing it with you all because I want you all to know about it and to try to answer any questions that you have before it goes into effect. Okay.
Melissa, real quick, this is Jane. Do we need to change language in any of our policies? And if so, do we need to vote on that?
No, it's not in the board athletic eligibility policy.
Okay.
This is in the handbook. So I believe the board athletic eligibility policy is the same as what it had to do with GPA. But now you've got me thinking I need to probably just one more time.
Sorry, I just remembered that we have one, but I wasn't sure of the specifics or what needed to be changed.
Let me see this updated eligibility policy. Yeah, it's right here.
If I remember correctly, it is the GPA, I think. But there was also something in there about, seems like about a grades in certain classes.
Oh, it is. It is. I'll share it with you right now. I just found
But
it.
is that, I think that's in addition to what's in the handbook, right? Not in place of?
Yeah, this is the Neuse Charter School Board approved eligibility policy, and you are right. It's right here, Jane.
Yeah, so I think we do need to
We'll
vote. We'll need a motion and we'll need to vote to replace the language in here as well.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, thank you. I've been so.
No worries. It's hard
So,
to keep
well,
track of what's where.
My question was, I guess, if I remember correctly, the eligibility policy, this particular policy was on top of, it was to be more restrictive than the.
Yeah, Michelle, I think what she's saying is that this exact language that they're replacing is also in this document. Yes, you're correct that there's more restrictive language in there, but the load, the minimum load being 5 classes is in this document as well. So I guess it's up to the board whether we want to continue that or not. But if we want to move to what the state's moving to, we would have to vote.
Right, that's correct. That was kind of my question is, that we would not have to change this unless this was something that the school wanted to change.
Right. Well, I would like to change it.
For the board policy anyway, it's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would recommend that language come out. We have a 6-period school day. It continues to be a struggle for students who have excelled academically and have finished English 4 in 11th grade, but because they're an athlete, if they finished English 4, Math 4, all of their histories, all of their sciences, and they're taking JCC classes, they either have to take extra classes, so they hit that 5 out of 6, which can ultimately, and we have seen this happen, impact their GPA because they can only take certain electives that are at a 4 or a 5-point scale, as opposed to just taking what they need to take. They are enrolled here as a student, and there shouldn't be any additional. It has at times felt like a penalty, to be quite frank, and I certainly don't think that is something that is intended. I know it's about making sure our students are in good academic standing and that academics are first, and I will speak that louder than anyone else. But at the same time, we do have students who complete all their high school coursework in 11th grade, and they want 4 years of eligibility. They want to play as a senior. They don't want to graduate early. So they got to find 5 more classes to take.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. And I would have never.
Can you add that policy back to our into this drive for this month, just so we'll have it when we go back and reference?
I sure will.
And this conversation has nothing to do with the notice that we got from the athletic director about ejectments and all that kind of stuff.
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Well, this is Jane. I guess I would like to make a motion to replace the language in the athletic eligibility board, Neuse Charter School board policy, to replace the duplicate, the language that the state has changed, that the NCHSAA, let me start over. I'd like to make a motion for the Neuse Charter School Board athletic eligibility policy to reflect the same changes that the NCHSAA has made to their eligibility policy. Sorry, took me a second.
I second, and I would like to make note that that was not me who made that motion this time. So there's that.
I believe you might have pointed that out a previous time that I had to repeat the motion. Thanks, Jason.
Jane, have you been taking lessons from Jason?
Yes, I have. Yeah, can you tell?
Parliamentary procedure class I hold every Wednesday. So
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none other than my dog and his collar. I will go ahead and take a vote. Okay, Nicole Booker,
Aye.
Jason,
aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Lindsay.
Aye.
Let's see, Benji and Paul are not here, and I will vote aye as well. Motion carries. Dr. Black, were there, and I guess I should have asked this prior, are there any other changes that need to be made? Okay.
Just that one.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'm so excited to share this with you. I feel like it's like the carrot, right? Like we've been talking about it. It's coming and it's coming and it's finally here. So I'm going to share with you what I have right now in terms of a new building. I shared it with the staff a couple of weeks ago. They were very excited, and I hope that you all will be as well. I will be sharing this out with the families after I share it with you. So this is linked in the superintendent report in the drive if you would rather open it and look at it that way. But essentially, this is the site plan. You can see that the red font over to the left is showing you where that elementary building is. And this is the first floor. What you will notice is that we have maximized every nook and cranny in this building for classrooms. There is no frills, no bells and whistles, so to speak. It is fully functional for a lower academy building. This is the first floor. It is a little over 12,000 square feet. I think that says 12,300. It says 12,500 square feet on the bottom. And then again, second floor completely maximized for classes and for students. And that one is 12,800 square feet. So these are just some elevation views of it. So you can see the high school is on the left and then the elementary school is on the right. The high school has 3 floors. The elementary school will have 2. This is the south elevation. This is the west elevation. Check out that logo. And then the north. And so What comes next are just concept renderings of what this may look like. So you can see this is our flagpole. This is where our main carpool comes through for our 2nd through 5th grade in the morning and in the afternoon. That's looking at it front on. You can see the space in between the two buildings, the lovely little people out there. This is also
Cherry blossoms.
what?
It's like cherry blossoms.
Yeah,
I
they
know.
look great.
The staff have already put in their request for cherry blossom trees, so we're gonna have to make sure that happens because they are, they make the whole thing. It's just so lovely. So then this is just another view of it from different sides. Again, it matches very closely with the high school building to create some uniformity on the campus. And then you're almost to my favorite one, that logo on the building as people are entering our campus from Kelly Drive. They will see, welcome to Neuse Charter School. So this is a super quick look at it. We are continuing to have meetings. We are continuing to flesh things out and also fine tune as we go. But it is a very exciting thing for me to be able to share this with you all.
Do we have a teacher's lounge like that in the high school building?
We do.
That's pretty
do.
nice.
And on the 3rd floor, it is really nice, and it's a beautiful view. It's right here. This space in the high school. Robotics is also enjoying it as they are using that space for storage and practicing, and it's a multi-purpose space. But we make it work.
There is one picture missing from all of these, and it is the picture of the empty space where all the trailers are now, and Dr. Blackwell dancing in the middle of that space.
You are not wrong. I said we were going to have a parade, and as those things come out of here, we're going to stand and wave. That'll be a great day, too. Not too far from now, hopefully. So there's the last piece that I have for you for my report is just what it can be and very soon what it will be. So any questions, thoughts about that? Fantastic. Well, I'm going to keep going because I've got the finance report next, Michelle. I'm just going to keep going.
Keep right on going.
So we finally got our final numbers for the 22-23 school year, and I got them last week, the end of last week. Jason, I think you were on that email from Kathy, but essentially when I got the report, I did a double take, and then I actually printed it out so I could read it because I still didn't believe it. And then I called Kathy because I wasn't sure it was right. So essentially, we ended the 22-23 school year with a surplus of $862,493.28. Which is great, by the way, because we just committed $2 million to a new building. And we just were able to have a surplus of almost $900,000. And so I said, how in the world did that happen? Because, we're good, but I didn't think we were that good. And essentially, we over budgeted. We were over budgeted by about $1 million in our expenses, and the ESSER money that continued to come through also offset a lot of things. And so where we thought we were going to be at about 126, we had an influx of cash for ESSER money that offset a lot of our typical operating expenses. And so that landed us with this really nice surplus, for which I was surprised, but I am also very, very happy because we all know that construction is expensive, and what they tell you it's going to cost is probably not quite what it's going to actually cost. So not an extra $862,000 to put towards those efforts. So more good news. And then finally, the September financial report, like I said, when I talked about it in August, it just kind of is what it is. We don't really start getting payments from counties until October. And so that information is in the drive, but essentially, we've received a little over $13,000 in local revenue so far. So we know we've got a little over 1.7 million left to collect. So I'm sure that number, I will go into more detail in October if we start to get some payments so that you all can see that. But I do just want to note that in our operations account right now, we have a little over $3 million. In our retirement account, it's holding at 50 as it's supposed to. And then our contingency funds are at $868,000. So we have a total of a little over $4 million in the bank right now. So any questions about any of that? Lots of numbers tonight, but I think for the most part, lots of good numbers. So I think I'm done.
Okay, any more questions for Dr. Blackwell? Going once, going twice. All right, we are moving on now to our standing committee reports. Jane, for the governance committee.
We did not meet.
Okay. Financial oversight committee.
We did not meet. We had some sicknesses, but we are scheduled to meet this Friday, I believe.
Okay, great. We already did our finance committee report. Risk management committee. Strategic planning committee.
No, we did not meet, but I know that last month we had pressed pause on approving the outcome goals for the next few years because I needed to double check and make sure that EVOS growth measure I thought was going to be okay. And then I also wanted to just make sure all the data that was on that document was up to date. And it is. Benji had messaged me and said that if everything was good and I felt, like everything was as complete as it could be, that I could ask for you all to go ahead and discuss it and or approve it. And so I do feel like it is as complete as it's going to be. It is as accurate as it is going to be. I feel comfortable with it. And so he couldn't be here this evening, but did say that if all those boxes were checked, that we could go ahead and move forward with you all making a decision to put it into place.
You mean now or?
To vote to approve it for the next 3 school years, I believe.
I know that we typically need to have a motion before we vote, but before we discuss things, but I would just like to know, is it possible for you to sort of give us a sense without seeing them side by side of what changed?
Yes. So whenever we looked at it, we added in what I think were maybe some more realistic measures and more attainable for us as a school. So the relative performance shifted a bit. Initially, it was in the top 25% of K-12 charters and then in the top 10% of K-12 charters. We adjusted that to show that the first mark is to be in the top 30%. Right now we're in the top 54%. And then in the next school year, it goes down to 25. We also added in the measure of Neuse measuring against the K-12 charters that are in our district. That was new. And so we would be in the top 50% of our district this current school year. Next school year would be in the top 35% of the district. And I'm not sure if y'all remember, but we talked about the district that we are in particular is very highly competitive charter schools. And so seeing where we land among schools that are closer to us, the top 3 charters are in the western part of the state. So feel like that might be a better data point for us as well, in addition to the K-12 charters across the state. So those are the things that changed for the relative performance. The absolute performance, we had been working towards a 75% GLP, and we moved that number to 65%. Felt like that was a much more attainable goal as we continue to track. We were at 57 and then 60 and now 62. That 65 would be a good mark for us. We haven't grown more than 3 points in the 3 years over time at a time. And then moving that number to 67 the following school year. And then everything else stays the same.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Yeah. I can't. I think somebody.
Okay, so Brad Williams
It's
has
me,
raised
just letting
his
you know,
hand.
we won the 3rd set. So we are on the way to the next one.
That is fantastic.
Wonderful.
That was a very, very close game. It was
Wow.
23-25, and we were losing for quite a bit of it. So
Fantastic. That's so
they
great.
did fantastic. Sorry.
I know the crowd is going crazy.
I bet.
Yeah, it's crazy over there.
I bet they are. That's amazing.
Last interruption, I promise.
Awesome.
So we need a motion, correct, Madam Chair? Oh,
Yep. Sorry, I was on mute.
okay.
We do need a motion.
I will move to approve the updated strategic outcomes for Neuse Charter School as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Jane, second by Jeremy. Any discussion, further discussion? Hearing none, I will go ahead and call a vote. Nicole Booker,
Aye.
Jason Geit,
Aye.
Jane Jackson,
Aye.
Jeremy Pierce,
Aye.
Lindsay Spain,
Aye.
and Benji and Paul are not here, and I will vote aye as well. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Anything else for our strategic planning committee?
No.
Okay. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business.
Michelle, I wanted to add one thing that I probably should have put in old business as I was going through the minutes. During financial oversight last meeting, we talked about having a booster club more involved in our meetings. And I don't know what we need to do with that, or we just need to maybe move that on to unfinished business next time and maybe come up with a plan. But I just wanted to bring that up because that was something that was brought up last meeting that, I didn't want that to fall off the.
Thanks, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Nicole. Is it something that we're prepared to talk about tonight, or?
Probably
Do
not. I think maybe I just need to move it to go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say, I think it's just, we got to make sure we get somebody from the Booster Club here to kind of make sure they give us a financial report and activity report up to date in going along with the financial oversight committee.
Okay. So that was kind of the vision there.
That was kind of the vision I had, that I thought that's how, kind of where we left it the last meeting. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, in order to do that, do we need to take action or just invite them, or what do we need?
I think it's just an invite because it's not like it's a voting thing. I think it's just since they're a separate 501c3, they just need to come and give a report to make sure we're all kumbaya.
Who is the chair currently?
Mr. Curtis Boy.
Curtis Foy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Nicole, I think previously when they came, they had a standing place on the agenda. Is that what we're intending to do, or do we want that to be under financial oversight?
No, I'd say make it a separate standing, but I was just going to suggest financial oversight. It be near that report. It made the most sense to be near that report. But again, I think it's a separate standing invitation for that group. Again, feel free to push back on any of that, but
I wondered, Jason, if we can talk on Friday in our financial oversight meeting about like specifics that we want. And then, and I'm happy to extend that invitation, but I think they're going to want to know, like, what do you want to know?
All right, so I'll just put in the minutes that you are going to discuss it and get back to us. Does that work?
now we're going to discuss it and we're going to make sure somebody is here next meeting. How about that? That's what we're going to do.
Sounds good.
And while talking about unfinished business, Dr. Blackwell, it seems like there, I can't remember if it was the last meeting or the meeting before, we had discussion on changing, updating a policy and items within the handbook based on the new legislation.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
new gave us some extended time to get that done.
It did. And I was going to talk about it tonight, but I have a legal briefing tomorrow at 12:30. And
Okay.
it was supposed to be 2 weeks ago, so I could have brought it to you as all the ins and outs. But they delayed it for 2 weeks because they said there's a lot of behind the scenes work that's taking place. They're writing a bunch of policies that they can give to schools to adapt for our needs. And so we are working through so much of that. And I did take the guidance from our last meeting and I put my notes in there as to who I should, because we had kind of pressed pause on that until I had made some suggestions on who I felt like needed to own some of those things. But the North Carolina Association of Public Charter Schools, in conjunction with Lisa Gordon Stella, tomorrow at 12:30 are hosting a big info session. And there is a lot of new information and a lot of new things, content that has been written to help support this effort for schools. So we still have until January 1st. The policies that are in place are not board level policies. They're school policies, such as how can a parent object to curriculum. And so that's really the bulk of what needs to be done. And they're taking that on and hoping to create some uniformity in charter schools and how those policies look for each school, but with the same language. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I will know so much more this time tomorrow than I know right now.
So maybe we can get an update at the next meeting.
Yeah, I will definitely have that. And I might even just put an executive summary of it in a shared drive so you all can take a look at it. But I do not believe there's anything that boards have to do in relation to that because it's a state law. So, I mean, if you all would like to vote on it at some point, of course, but I don't think that that's necessary.
And that was called what? The Parents'
Bill of Rights.
Bill of Rights, of course.
Well, Melissa, is it possible that we would need to vote to approve the updates to the handbooks, though, since the board has to approve the handbooks?
Well, a lot of what we're being directed to do now, we can add it to our handbook, but they're actually directing us to create an entire website a web page within our website.
Okay.
So
well, you can keep us posted, but I think if anything, and it may be a question for Lisa, but if anything, if the handbooks change, we may need to vote to approve those updates.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. We've been looking at a couple of different school systems that have kind of gotten ahead of this. Charlotte Mecklenburg is one. They've already gotten their webpage established. And so it seems that might be a cleaner way to do it. Trying to find a handbook on a website and then find the page where it's at, as opposed to just here's the Parents' Bill of Rights page. So that's I think where we're going to land, but I will absolutely make a note of that for sure.
Okay, so I think we are done with unfinished business, no new business. No board development or self-assessment. I believe we do need to go into closed session. I've sent a link to the board members for that. So I will entertain a motion to go into closed session for personnel discussion pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A6.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I will call the roll. Nicole,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Lindsay, and I will vote aye. Oh, well, I didn't even wait for your vote. I'm just moving right
Let her
on.
speak for herself, Michelle. Goodness.
She knew what I was going to vote.
I'm checking it off over here as I go through my list. So. All right, motion carries. We are headed into closed session for personnel discussion. Once we are done, we will come back into open session. So I will see everyone in closed session.